All right, secret number 3 here on spiraling up your life holistically. This is your wheel of life. And I say your wheel of life because you have your own one. You will divide these categories up differently. You'll have different spokes and whatnot. And on this model, this is kind of my model more or less, it has 12 spokes, plus a little insert your own category, which I actually have as adventure at the moment. At some point that might be parenting. Parenting is an adventure, God knows. But you can split this up however you want. Now, before we dig into this little model and how we actually use it to identify the problem areas we should work on first and whatnot, let's just go around the wheel for a minute and look at some of these categories. This is a 12-point star, and that's just what I find pretty much most useful. Some people have as few as 4 or 5 categories or spokes on their wheel of life. They have fun, family, friends, finances, fitness, or whatever it is. And so you could split that up like that. I find it useful to get a little bit more detailed because, for instance, your financial life and your career life, they're very different things to me. You could have tons of money and be totally set and have your investments pour in money or whatnot in your financial life. And that might give you permission to totally disconnect your career from money making. At that point, your career might be completely philanthropic. Could be volunteer work or something, and that's great. Another reason why I like to separate these out pretty distinctly is because it allows us to work on them a little bit more deliberately. Our intellectual life, our intellectual mind, our logical process and whatnot, that's something that we can train pretty specifically from other parts of our cognition. Or our romantic, our marital relationship, that for a lot of us is a very, very significant part, and it's more than just our other relationships. It's more than just a family, and it's different from social. It's kind of its own thing that we can deliberately cultivate, get intentional about upgrading there. Now, all of these categories should be so important that no matter how many spokes you have on your wheel, if even just one of them is very weak, very bumpy, kind of short, it's like a short spoke that's underdeveloped, then as the wheel spins, it is going to be a bumpy ride. And the more undeveloped, weak spokes you have, the bumpier the ride is going to be. It's going to be uncomfortable. It is not going to reach its destination as quickly. The more developed and balanced these spokes are, the smoother the wheel will spin, and it can spin there faster. Now, one example of this, you might see how different areas of the life, they are different, but they are still very, very connected in an intimate way. And that's why this helps us find the first order problem to actually focusing on fixing and not get caught up in the second order consequences that seem like a big deal. And they are a big deal, but if we really just focused on the high leverage area, they kind of sort themselves out. An example of this is maybe the career. Maybe your career has been shattered and it's a huge thing at the moment, and that is putting your financial life in hell. Your financial life is suddenly really under stress as well, and your emotional life on top of this is now pretty chaotic and pretty uncomfortable. Where did the problem start? Where should you really work first? Maybe it's the emotional category because it was your emotions that got you fired from your career or something, and now that put the financial life in jeopardy. So if you did maybe the emotional work, improved your emotional EQ, which is a skill you can train, your empathy and all that, then that might allow you to kick off in a career in a better way and not get fired or whatever, and that could allow you to boost your financial life. The second order consequences that you wouldn't want to get caught up on fixing because they're only second order, maybe that's like your material life and whatnot. You've got crappy tools or something because you can't pay for them. That would be a second order consequence of the emotional, career, financial kind of thing. Being aware of this helps you focus on the most important place first, or at least have a better idea. You might not know the biggest one, but at least you have a theory of where to go first. It's a starting off point. I've found this incredibly, incredibly useful. And I definitely feel the bump in different areas as I'm trying to roll to have my life going where I want it to go. Sometimes maybe it's the social area. I remember immigrating to America, knowing nobody. Something that was really important to me that I was measuring was like my social spoke. Did I meet a new friend this month or something? Because it was honestly a really lonely period of my life. And I could see how things would develop from there if I really figured out that social category. That would lead to job opportunities. That would lead to new learning resources. That would lead to new mentorship opportunities. And it did. I focused on that category, I grew it, and it worked wonderfully. It worked so good. Now I don't really focus on that because honestly, I feel like that spoke's really healthy, so I'm focusing on other areas. I hope this model serves you in a similar way so you know where to focus to generate the best result for yourself. People who don't have any idea of this model might not even have the idea that like the social category is really weak right now. Maybe I could do something to change that. And I see that and it hurts a little bit. And it's a bit hard to just like give somebody this model if they are not asking for it in a certain way. But I hope you take this, make it your own, and hopefully share it with another person as well. So you can balance this wheel, develop it, develop your strengths, of course, make sure the weaknesses get worked out so it's all a smooth ride. And then there's the big purpose in the middle of the wheel. All of these little areas, they don't actually matter, except for how they contribute to the big purpose getting where it wants to go. You're making progress, making the progress with that big purpose. That is the point of this wheel being balanced in the first place. They're all basically gateways, your physical health and fitness, your spirituality, your spiritual practices or whatever, your intellectual development, your EQ, your social life. All of this is a portal. It is a process in making your big purpose. Remember that. And that is why it is so motivating. You feel like your purpose is stuck if you're missing that physical fitness, right? You feel like your purpose is stuck if your financial life is in ruins, if your intellectual life is not where you know it could be. You got to learn how to read better or something. We all start where we start and make progress from there. If you have a weak spot and it's holding back your purpose, then I know you're going to be extremely, extremely motivated to balance that out. Not only because it would improve all these other areas in your life, and you can see that pretty clearly when you have a model like this, but also because your wheel is going to be rolling smoother in the direction that you want it to go. So outside of this whole wheel, you have your life vision. You are steering the ship somehow. It's similar to the tricycle model we talked about in another video, the tricycle model of retirement, but this is a little bit more holistic. You got one big wheel, make it go as smoothly as possible. Craft it in a way where every single spoke is truly essential. You can cut the fluff out of your model. You're in charge of this model. This is just my own. If you want to do something very, very different with your wheel of life, go for it. I've taken this idea and completely changed it from Lifebook, which was a program I went through a while ago, and they have several categories or whatever. And I took that idea, I completely changed it, and that's kind of how this got born. And if you want to completely change it again, please go ahead. Just make sure it is useful for you.